Station Omega-7 was supposed to be neutral territory. Yeah, right. About as neutral as a cage match between a honey badger and a politician. The massive rotating habitat floated in the void between 3 star systems, its gleaming corridors packed with enough alien dignitaries to make a xenobiologist weep tears of joy. Too bad they were all here to carve up human space like a holiday turkey. General Maya Rodriguez stood at the head of the conference table, her crisp military uniform a stark contrast to the rainbow of scales chitin, and whatever that purple stuff was that Ambassador Glocks kept shedding. Maya had seen enough boardrooms in her corporate days to know when she was being set up. This felt exactly like that time Consolidated Mining tried to acquire her company by bribing the board. Spoiler alert, that didn't end well for them either. The human expansion has been aggressive, wheezed Ambassador Vextar, his reptilian head weaving side to side like a cobra sizing up prey. The Saurian Empire's top diplomat was 7 feet of green scales and attitude, with eyes that looked like they'd been carved from amber by someone having a really bad day. Perhaps it's time for more experienced species to provide guidance. Maya's honor guard shifted behind her. Lieutenant Commander Torres, her aide-de-camp, had that look that said he was mentally calculating how many rounds it would take to clear the room. Professional paranoia was a beautiful thing. Guidance, Maya repeated, her voice flatter than a pancake under a steamroller. You mean occupation? Such harsh words. Vextar's forked tongue flicked out. We prefer administrative oversight. The other delegates nodded along like bobblehead dolls. The insectoid hive mind collective buzzed their agreement. The crystalline resonance empire chimed in with sounds like wind chimes in a hurricane. Even the blob-like collective made wet, squelching noises that probably meant something diplomatic. Maya had spent 3 days listening to these same arguments, packaged in increasingly creative euphemisms. Protective custody, guided development, supervised integration. It was like watching a thesaurus have a nervous breakdown. Here's the thing, Maya said, placing her hands flat on the table. Humans have a saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Our expansion has been perfectly legal under galactic law. We've followed every treaty, crossed every T, dotted every I. Hell, we even used the proper forms. Vextar's laugh sounded like gravel in a blender. Legal, perhaps. But wisdom. That comes with age, General. Your species has been spacefaring for what, 2 centuries? We've been exploring the galaxy for over 5,000 years. And yet here you are, trying to gang up on the new kids. Maya shot back. Funny how that works. The temperature in the room dropped about 10 degrees. Vextar's amber eyes narrowed to slits. You dare speak to your betters with such disrespect? Betters? Maya's eyebrow climbed toward her hairline. Ambassador, I've seen your military records. Your last 3 campaigns ended with you retreating faster than a cat from a cucumber. That did it. Vextar's control snapped like a twig. He rose from his seat, all 7 feet of offended reptilian dignity, and in one fluid motion, kicked Maya square in the chest. The general stumbled backward, more surprised than hurt. The room went dead silent. Even the collective stopped squelching. Torres and the honor guard had their weapons halfway drawn before Maya's raised hand stopped them. She straightened her uniform, brushed off her jacket, and fixed Vextar with a smile that could have frozen helium. Ambassador, she said, her voice carrying the kind of calm that made smart people start looking for exits, you have exactly 6 hours to apologize. After that, we'll discuss this differently. Vextar's scales practically glowed with satisfaction. Threats, General? How primitive. Maya's smile never wavered. Not a threat, Ambassador. A timeline. Back aboard the Saurian flagship Dominator, Vextar was practically glowing with satisfaction. The massive dreadnought hung in space like a metallic thundercloud, bristling with enough weaponry to crack a moon. Its command deck was a monument to Saurian engineering, all sharp angles and intimidating shadows, designed to make visitors feel small and insignificant. Did you see the look on her face? Vex-Tar hissed to his assembled staff, his tail lashing with amusement. Humans think they can swagger into our galaxy and demand respect. Pathetic. Meh. His communications officer, Zeke, clicked his mandibles nervously. The insectoid's compound eyes reflected the bridge's harsh lighting like a disco ball having an anxiety attack. Sir, perhaps we should consider the General's warning. Humans have proven resourceful. Vex-Tar's laugh echoed through the bridge. Resourceful. They've been in space for barely 2 centuries. When my ancestors were building stellar empires, theirs were still hitting rocks with sticks. Weapons Master Gorlak, a creature that looked like someone had crossed a bear with a bulldozer and forgotten to add subtlety, grunted his agreement. Human ships are fast, but they lack the firepower to challenge a proper battle fleet. Their weapons are adequate for bullying pirates, nothing more. Exactly. Why? Vex-Tar settled into his command throne, a piece of furniture that had clearly been designed by someone who confused intimidating with uncomfortable. The other delegates saw what happened. They know humans can be humiliated without consequence. By tomorrow, they'll be fighting each other for the choicest pieces of human territory. On the tactical display, the Allied fleet looked impressive enough. 47 ships from 6 different species, all arrayed in a formation that screamed we're definitely not planning anything hostile. The humans had 12 vessels scattered throughout the system, outnumbered 4-1. Basic math suggested this would be a short conversation. Sir, Zek's voice had that particular quality that suggested he was about to say something his boss didn't want to hear. I'm detecting some unusual communication patterns among the human vessels. Define unusual, Vex-Tar's attention was only half focused. He was already composing his report to the Saurian High Command, the one where he'd describe how he'd brought the arrogant humans to heel with a single kick. Encrypted burst transmissions, sir. Very sophisticated encryption. And they're not just talking to each other? That got Vex-Tar's attention. Explain. The humans are sending messages to ships from other delegations. The pattern suggests they're using some kind of adaptive encryption that changes constantly. I've never seen anything like it. Gorlak snorted, probably begging for mercy. Humans always were good at groveling. But Zek's mandibles were clicking faster now, a sure sign of agitation. Sir, I don't think that's what this is. The message density is too high, and the responses from the other ships, they're not what I'd expect from rejection. Vex-Tar's mood was starting to sour. Are you saying the humans are negotiating? I'm saying they're talking, sir. A lot. And some of the Allied ships are starting to adjust their positions. The tactical display updated, showing subtle shifts in the fleet formation. Nothing dramatic, just small course corrections that meant absolutely nothing. Except to someone who understood fleet dynamics, they meant everything. Nervous repositioning, Gorlak declared. They're getting ready to watch the humans surrender. Vex-Tar wanted to believe that. The alternative was admitting that maybe, just maybe, he'd miscalculated. And Saurian diplomats who miscalculated tended to find themselves assigned to monitoring space rocks in the outer rim. Continue surveillance, he ordered, and prepare a message to the human fleet. It's time they learned the consequences of disrespecting their betters. Zek's compound eyes reflected the bridge lighting nervously. Sir, what if the general wasn't bluffing? Then she's about to learn why the Saurian Empire has ruled this sector for 3,000 years. Vex-Tar's smile revealed rows of very sharp teeth. 6 hours, she said. Perfect. Just enough time for her to realize how hopeless her situation is. On the tactical display, another human ship made a minute course correction. Then another, small movements barely worth noting. Unless you were counting. 6 light-years away, aboard the human cruiser Determination, Maya Rodriguez was having the time of her life. The ship's command center buzzed with activity that would have made a NASA mission control look like a retirement home. But this wasn't the frantic energy of panic. This was the focused intensity of professionals doing what they did best. Status report, Maya called out, settling into her command chair with the satisfaction of someone who'd just remembered they had a royal flush. Communications array is fully integrated with the station's network, reported Chief Warrant Officer Park, her cybernetics expert. We've got backdoor access to every system on Omega 7. Their security is about as tight as a screen door on a submarine. Maya's smile could have powered a small city. And our friends in the Allied fleet? Oh, they're having a very interesting day. Park's grin was predatory. Turns out Ambassador Vextar has some fascinating personal opinions about his allies. Very educational reading. See, this was the thing about humans that other species consistently underestimated. They assumed that because humanity was new to the galactic stage, they were naive. What they missed was that humans had been perfecting the art of information warfare for centuries. Corporate espionage, political manipulation, psychological operations, humans had been running these games since before they'd figured out faster-than-light travel. Maya Rodriguez hadn't started her career as a military officer. She'd been a corporate acquisition specialist, which was a fancy way of saying she'd been paid to destroy companies from the inside. Hostile takeovers, market manipulation, reputation assassination, she'd learned from the best. Earth's boardrooms were far more vicious than any battlefield. Begin Phase 2, Maya ordered. I want every private communication Vextar has sent in the last 6 months. Personal logs, classified reports, interdepartmental memos, everything. Already on it, General. Park's fingers danced across her console. Did you know he's been skimming from the Saurian military budget? Apparently he's got a gambling problem. Who knew reptiles could be addicted to probability mathematics? Lieutenant Commander Torres looked up from his station. Maham, we're getting responses from the Crystalline Resonance Empire. They're very interested in Vextar's private assessment of their military capabilities. Maya's smile widened. What assessment? Quote, Resonance Empire forces are adequate for defensive operations, but their crystalline matrix weapons are outdated and effective against modern shielding. A determined assault could shatter their entire fleet within hours. End quote. Ouch, Maya winced theatrically. That's going to leave a mark. What about the Hive Mind Collective? Even better, Torres was clearly enjoying himself. Vextar's personal logs describe them as overgrown insects with delusions of intelligence and suggest their hive structure makes them predictable and easily manipulated. Maya had to admire the reptilian ambassador's complete lack of political survival instincts. Most species at least had the sense to keep their contempt for their allies private. Vextar had documented his disdain for every member of the alliance with the thoroughness of a tax auditor. General, Park looked up from her console, we've got access to the Saurian military communication network. Want to see something fun? The main display lit up with a tactical readout of the Allied fleet. But this wasn't the human perspective. This was the Saurian battle plan, complete with annotations. He's planning to betray them, Maya breathed. After they help him defeat us, he's going to turn on every single ally. The plan was laid out in excruciating detail. Once the human fleet was destroyed, Vextar intended to position his forces to accidentally engage the other Allied ships. A few convenient targeting errors, some communications malfunctions, and suddenly the Saurian Empire would control the entire system. This is beautiful, Maya said. Absolutely beautiful. Chief Park, I want this broadcast to every ship in the system. Full encryption break, maximum distribution. And make sure it looks like it came from a Saurian military source. Won't that expose our intelligence capabilities? Maya's laugh was pure predator. Chief, in 3 hours it won't matter what they know about our capabilities. They'll be too busy trying to figure out which of their allies they can still trust. On the tactical display, the Allied fleet was beginning to show signs of strain. Ships that had been in tight formation were starting to drift apart. Communication traffic was spiking across all frequencies. "General," Torres reported, "the collective is requesting a private channel with our fleet." "Patch them through." Maya settled back in her chair. "Let's see what they have to say." The wet, squelching voice of the collective's representative filled the bridge. "Human General Rodriguez, we wish to discuss terms." Maya's smile was razor-sharp. "What kind of terms?" "The kind that don't involve us being betrayed by reptilian scum." "Interesting," Maya mused. "And what makes you think Ambassador Vextar would betray his allies?" "The same intelligence reports you just broadcast, General. Very illuminating reading." Maya could practically hear Vextar's political career imploding from here. "Well, I'm sure we can work something out." Aboard the Dominator, Vextar was discovering that there were worse things than being wrong. Being publicly, spectacularly, documentably wrong was definitely one of them. "Sir," Zik's voice had climbed about 3 octaves in the past hour. "We're receiving urgent communications from the Resonance Empire fleet. They're not happy." The main display showed the Allied formation dissolving like sugar in acid. Ships that had been maintaining tight tactical spacing were now drifting apart, their weapon systems powered up and tracking former allies. "What do you mean, not happy?" Vextar demanded, though he was starting to suspect he knew exactly what Zik meant. "They've received copies of your private assessment of their military capabilities, sir. The one where you called their weapons outdated crystalline garbage suitable only for intimidating space debris." Vextar's blood went cold. He'd never written those words. Except he had, hadn't he? In his private logs, the ones that were supposed to be encrypted with military-grade security. "That's impossible. Those logs are classified beyond the highest levels." "Sir," Gorlak's voice was tight with controlled fury, "we're also receiving inquiries about the post-victory tactical assessment. The one where you detailed plans to eliminate the Allied fleet after defeating the humans." The ambassador's world tilted sideways. "How did they get that?" "Unknown, sir. But it's definitely your file. Your personal encryption, your command codes, your signature biometrics. As far as the system is concerned, you sent it to them yourself." On the tactical display, the Allied fleet was coming apart at the seams. The Resonance Empire had moved their ships to flanking positions, their crystalline hulls glowing with barely contained energy. The hive-mind collective was dispersing into a defensive swarm formation. Even the normally placid collective was showing signs of agitation, their bioships pulsing with aggressive bioluminescence. "Sir?" Zik was practically vibrating with panic. "The collective is demanding an explanation for your assessment that they're overgrown insects with delusions of intelligence." "I never said that," Vextar protested weakly. "It's in your personal logs, sir. Time-stamped and authenticated, along with your strategic assessment that their hive structure makes them predictable and easily manipulated." Vextar sank into his command throne, the weight of catastrophe settling on his shoulders like a lead blanket. "How is this possible?" "The humans, sir." Zik's mandibles were clicking so fast they sounded like castanets. "They've been broadcasting leaked Saurian intelligence for the past 2 hours. Every private opinion, every classified assessment, every strategic plan. It's all out there." Gorlak's growl was low and dangerous. "You're telling me the humans have been reading our classified files?" "Not just reading them, sir. They've been selectively editing and distributing them. Every species in the Alliance has received personally tailored intelligence packages designed to maximize their outrage." The tactical display updated again. The Allied fleet was now in complete disarray, with former allies maintaining targeting solutions on each other. The Resonance Empire had demanded immediate withdrawal of Saurian forces from their sector. The hive mind collective was broadcasting pheromone-based insults that were probably causing diplomatic incidents across 12 systems. "How many ships do we have left?" Vextar asked quietly. 17, sir. The others have either withdrawn or joined the humans. Joined them? When? The collective has formally requested alliance with the human fleet. They're offering mutual defense pacts and technology sharing agreements. The Resonance Empire is considering similar terms. Vextar stared at the tactical display in growing horror. In the space of 3 hours, a 47-ship alliance had been reduced to 17 vessels, most of whom were now questioning their loyalty to the Saurian Empire. "Sir," Zeke's voice was barely a whisper, "we're receiving a personal message from the Saurian High Command." Vextar's stomach dropped. "Put it through." The cold, precise voice of High Admiral Kelsdak filled the bridge. "Ambassador Vextar, you are hereby ordered to explain how classified military intelligence has been compromised on such a massive scale." "High Admiral, I can explain." "You can explain how your personal logs, containing detailed assessments of Allied military capabilities and strategic plans for post-victory operations, have been distributed to every major power in the sector." "It's the humans, sir. The humans have made you look like an incompetent fool, Ambassador. And by extension, they've made the entire Saurian Empire look like incompetent fools. Do you understand the diplomatic ramifications of this disaster?" Vextar understood perfectly. Career over, reputation destroyed, probable exile to a monitoring station in the Galactic Rim. "Yes, sir." "You have 1 hour to resolve this situation, Ambassador. After that, you'll be recalled to face a military tribunal." The connection terminated, leaving Vextar staring at a tactical display that showed his entire career circling the drain. "Sir," Gorlak said quietly, "what are your orders?" Vextar looked at the remains of his fleet, then at the human ships that had somehow orchestrated the complete destruction of his alliance without firing a single shot. "Get me a direct channel to General Rodriguez," he said finally. "It's time to discuss terms." Maya Rodriguez had seen corporate executives beg before. She'd watched billion credit companies collapse because someone had leaked the wrong information at the wrong time. But she'd never seen anything quite like the complete psychological breakdown of a galactic ambassador. The communication channel crackled to life, and Vextar's face appeared on the main display. The reptilian looked like he'd aged about 50 years in the past 6 hours. His scales had lost their luster, his eyes were bloodshot, and his previously immaculate uniform was wrinkled and stained. "General Rodriguez," Vextar's voice was hoarse. "I believe we need to discuss the current situation." Maya leaned back in her command chair, the picture of casual confidence. "Ambassador, I thought you had 6 hours to apologize. By my count, you've got about 30 minutes left." "The apology?" Vextar swallowed hard. "I need to discuss the terms of that apology." "Terms?" Maya's eyebrow climbed toward her hairline. "Ambassador, an apology doesn't generally require negotiation. It's pretty straightforward. You admit you were wrong, you express regret, and you promise not to do it again." On the tactical display, the remains of the Allied fleet were scattered across the system like debris from a collision. 17 Saurian vessels, looking increasingly isolated as their former allies either withdrew or actively joined the human fleet. "General, you have to understand the situation has become complex." Maya's smile was sharp enough to cut glass. "Complex? Ambassador, let me simplify it for you. 6 hours ago, you assaulted a human military officer during diplomatic negotiations. You did it in front of witnesses, including my honor guard. Under galactic law, that's an act of war. But the intelligence leaks." "What intelligence leaks?" Maya's voice was pure innocence. Ambassador, Mia T. Are you suggesting that the Saurian Empire's military communications are so poorly secured that a species with only 2 centuries of spaceflight experience could compromise them? Vextar's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. You know exactly what you did. I know exactly what I did, Maya agreed. I gave you 6 hours to apologize. What you did with those 6 hours is entirely your responsibility. The truth was, Maya had done exactly what she'd learned in the corporate world. She'd given her opponent enough rope to hang himself. Every piece of intelligence they'd leaked had been genuine Saurian military files. Every assessment, every strategic plan, every personal opinion had come directly from Vextar's own records. The Allied fleet. What Allied fleet? Maya gestured at the tactical display. I see 17 ships that apparently can't decide whether they want to fight or flee. I see former allies who've discovered that their trusted partner had been planning to betray them. I see a diplomatic situation that's gone from bad to catastrophically worse. Lieutenant Commander Torres looked up from his station. General, we're receiving a priority message from the Saurian High Command. Maya's smile widened. Put it through. The cold, precise voice of High Admiral Kelzdak filled the bridge. General Rodriguez, this is High Admiral Kelzdak of the Saurian High Command. We wish to discuss the immediate resolution of this diplomatic incident. High Admiral, I'm listening. Ambassador Vextar has been relieved of his authority and will be facing a military tribunal. The Saurian Empire formally apologizes for his actions and wishes to negotiate a peaceful resolution to this situation. Maya glanced at Vextar's image on the secondary display. The ambassador looked like he was watching his own funeral. That's very generous, High Admiral. But I'm afraid the situation has evolved beyond a simple apology. What do you mean? I mean that in the past 6 hours, 3 major galactic powers have requested alliance with the human fleet. The collective has offered mutual defense pacts, the Resonance Empire is proposing technology-sharing agreements, and the Hive Mind Collective is discussing joint colonization projects. There was a long pause from the Saurian High Command. You're saying the diplomatic situation has shifted. I'm saying that Ambassador Vextar's actions have fundamentally altered the balance of power in this sector. The question now is whether the Saurian Empire wants to be part of the new order or if they prefer to remain isolated. Maya could practically hear the High Admiral's teeth grinding. What are your terms? Full withdrawal of Saurian forces from disputed systems, recognition of human territorial claims, and a formal treaty acknowledging human sovereignty in this sector. And if we refuse? Maya's smile was razor-sharp. Then you'll be explaining to the Saurian Senate why their military budget is being audited by the Galactic Commerce Authority. Funny thing about those gambling debts of Ambassador Vextar's. They show a very interesting pattern of payments from military appropriations. The silence stretched for nearly a minute. Finally, High Admiral Kelzdak spoke. We accept your terms, General. Ambassador Vextar will be transferred to your custody for whatever justice you deem appropriate. Maya looked at Vextar's image. The reptilian was slumped in his command chair, looking like a deflated balloon. Actually, High Admiral, I think justice has already been served. Ambassador Vextar has learned a valuable lesson about the consequences of underestimating humans. Then, what do you propose? Exile, Maya said simply. Permanent exile from Saurian space. Let him spend the rest of his life thinking about what happens when you kick a human general in front of her troops. Vextar's image flickered and died as the communication terminated. The Allied fleet was dissolving around him. His career was over, and his reputation was in ruins. Maya leaned back in her command chair, satisfied. Chief Park, send a message to Earth Command. Tell them the diplomatic situation has been resolved in humanity's favor. Ma'am, how do we explain what happened here? Maya's grin was predatory. Simple, Chief. We tell them that when you've spent decades in corporate boardrooms, galactic politics is just another day at the office. 3 days later, Maya Rodriguez stood in the observation deck of Station Omega-7, watching the last of the Saurian vessels disappear into hyperspace. Vextar's exile ship was a pathetic sight, a converted cargo hauler that looked like it had been assembled by committee during a budget crisis. General. Lieutenant Commander Torres approached with a steaming cup of coffee. Final reports from the Diplomatic Corps said, the collective has formally ratified the Mutual Defense Pact. The Resonance Empire is sending a technology exchange delegation next month. And the Hive Mind Collective wants to discuss joint colonization of the Kepler 442 system. Maya accepted the coffee gratefully. What about the other powers? The hegemony has requested a formal meeting to discuss territorial agreements, but the Trade Federation is offering preferential status for human merchants. Even the Neutral Worlds Coalition wants to establish embassy relations. Maya nodded, unsurprised. Word of the Saurian incident, as it was already being called, had spread through galactic diplomatic channels faster than gossip at a high school reunion. The story was already taking on mythic proportions, the human general who'd destroyed an entire alliance without firing a shot. Ma, Torres continued, there's something else. The Galactic Diplomatic Corps wants to study what happened here. They're calling it the most effective example of information warfare in recorded history. Maya's laugh was rich with satisfaction. But information warfare? Torres, that wasn't warfare. That was just good old-fashioned corporate politics. The truth was, Maya had learned everything she needed to know about destroying enemies in the boardrooms of Earth's megacorporations. Hostile takeovers, reputation assassination, strategic information leaks, these were standard tools of corporate warfare. The only difference was that instead of stock prices and market share, she'd been playing with star fleets and galactic territories. General, if you don't mind me asking, how did you know it would work? Maya smiled, remembering her old mentor from Stellar Dynamics Corporation. Torres, every bully in the universe operates on the same principle. They depend on their victims being too scared or too weak to fight back. Vextar's whole strategy was based on the assumption that humans were primitive and easily intimidated. But we're not. No, we're not. We're creative, adaptable, and absolutely ruthless when we need to be. More importantly, we understand that the most effective weapon isn't always the biggest gun. Sometimes it's the right information at the right time. Maya pulled up the tactical display showing the current disposition of forces in the system. Where once there had been 47 hostile vessels, there were now 12 human ships surrounded by allied fleets from 3 different species. The thing about bullies, Maya continued, is that they always overestimate their own strength and underestimate their opponents. Vextar thought he could humiliate humanity with a single kick. What he didn't realize was that he was giving us the perfect justification to do what we'd been planning all along. Torres looked confused. Ma'am. Torres, did you really think Earth Command sent our entire negotiating team to a remote station without contingency plans? We've been preparing for this kind of situation since the first human ship left Sol system. Corporate Earth didn't become the dominant power in human space by playing nice. The observation deck's massive windows showed the steady stream of ships arriving and departing from the station. Human vessels, alien delegations, trade fleets, and diplomatic missions. The entire political landscape of the sector had shifted in 3 days. Ma'am, what do you think happened to Ambassador Vextar? Maya's smile was sharp. Vextar learned the most important lesson in galactic politics: reputation is everything. He spent 6 hours destroying his own credibility, his alliances, and his career. All I did was give him the opportunity. The irony wasn't lost on her. Vextar had kicked her because he thought humans were weak and primitive. In response, she'd demonstrated that humans were neither weak nor primitive, but rather creative, strategic, and absolutely lethal when properly motivated. General, Torres said quietly. "Do you think other species will try to test us again?" Maya looked out at the stars, considering. "Oh, I'm sure they will. But now they know that attacking humanity isn't just about facing our military. It's about facing our entire civilization. Corporate tactics, information warfare, psychological operations, diplomatic manipulation. We've been perfecting these techniques for centuries." She finished her coffee and set the cup aside. "The galaxy is about to learn what Earth's business schools have been teaching for decades. The most dangerous opponent isn't the one with the biggest weapons. It's the one who understands that warfare is just another form of negotiation." In the distance, a new ship was approaching the station. Another alien delegation, no doubt, coming to discuss terms with the species that had just rewritten the rules of galactic politics. Maya Rodriguez smiled. After all, she had a reputation to maintain. And in the galaxy's newest cautionary tale, somewhere in the Outer Rim, a disgraced Saurian ambassador was learning that when you kick a human general in front of her troops, you'd better be prepared for the consequences. Because humans, as it turned out, played for keeps.